gosh. I'm overwhelmed.
Congratulations on this movie and on the honor here at the festival, and thank you for being here. I thought with our conversation today, maybe we could go back a bit to what it was, since we have a lot of students in the audience, what it was that first led you to fall in love with or decide to go down the path of acting in the first place.
I'm the middle of 7 children. My father was in the Navy. My oldest brother became a doctor, who was considered the success of the family because science beats the arts. I received absolutely no encouragement whatsoever. My parents said, "Are you nuts? You can't make a living doing this." They were really worried about me because I watched television so much. My earliest memories would be, as soon as I woke up, I'd run and get the newspaper for the comics. I loved comics. I probably learned to read from comics because there were silent strips like Little King and Henry, and simple strips like Little Lulu and so forth, but I love Peanuts. And I really should give credit to the Walt Disney program, because it was the only program I remember seeing where they would show you the making of a movie. Whatever they were promoting, Darby O'Gill and the Little People, or, Babes in Toyland, whatever it was, I'm like, oh, there's a camera crew, and there's wardrobe, and there's construction, there's all these jobs. So maybe I won't make it as an actor. I'm not a bad cook. Maybe I could cater a production. Seriously. Because one of my earliest memories was, we were living in New York. There was $1 million movie where they showed the same movie at 5 o'clock Monday through Friday. And I saw the black and white King Kong. And I think I was 5, 6. And it was the first movie that just made me cry. It was so tragic to see him killed like that. And plus, I'd never seen dinosaurs come to life. I flipped out. And you couldn't go to the internet and Google and so forth. So I would go to the library and look up microfiche. I'd look up like reviews of King Kong in the New York Times and make notes. Willis O'Brien, special effects. Marcel Delgado, model maker. I mean, eventually I, learned all about stop frame animation from Famous Monsters magazine. But I was always, I knew that this was what I was going to do. I wouldn't admit it, because, the brothers and sisters would ridicule you. But I had puppets, and I had a Jerry Mahoney dummy. Oh yeah. And hey, listen, brothers and sisters, tough crowd. I was always arranging shows in my backyard and so forth. But I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And like I say, I wasn't so specific that I wasn't flexible in terms of, I just got to be in that business. I remember seeing this distinguished gentleman named Clarence Nash with white hair and a suit step up to the microphone and do the voice of Donald Duck. A little light went off in my head. I guess if I thought it through, people would have to be behind the voices of these characters, but at 4, 5, 6, they just emerged fully grown, and I thought, I want that job. I mean, I did a terrible Donald Duck, but I wasn't a bad Fred Flintstone or Barney. I practiced other characters. And again, I'd become so fixated on, I remember I loved Rocky and Bullwinkle so much, and I loved all the voices, but again, no Google. So I went to the record store and looked at the children's section, and you'd find a Rocky and Bullwinkle album, and you'd write down Dawes Butler, Don Messick, June Foray. Flash forward to many years later when I walk into the room and they're all sitting there for a recording session. I'm freaking out. I'll tell you what, I did an episode of a show called Canon, about this sort of portly detective played by William Conrad. And he was taken aback because when I first met him, I said, wow, what was it like narrating Rocky and Bullwinkle? Because he was, meanwhile in Frostbite Falls, Minnesota, he was that guy. And he was sort of taken aback, but then he told me the story of how they would record Friday evenings, like at 7 o'clock. And this is the early 60s, so, you know, they're drinking and having a good old time. But I was just mesmerized, thinking, oh, what a great job to have to be in the cast of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Well, and then you, of course, will come to, became a great voice actor in addition to live action yourself.
And let me tell you something, for all of you thinking about this, I was wanting to get character parts, because what happens in Hollywood is you do something well and they want you to do the same thing over and over again, you know, because it's a proven entity. I went to New York, having done television and movies and all this stuff. I think even after the space movies, I went and did audition. I would just audition. They were replacing Tim Curry in Amadeus. And what I'm saying, so, you know, there are open audition days where even if you don't have an agent, you can just show up and audition. So I auditioned for Sir Peter Hall, and I got word that if Peter Firth doesn't get his green card, you're it. And I thought, well, this is awkward, because I sort of felt like John Cassavetes in Rosemary's Baby, where you're sort of hoping that he doesn't get his green card. I mean, I wasn't hoping that he was harmed or died. I mean, I wasn't that Cassavetes, but I was like, oh, please, I hope he doesn't get his green card. And he got his green card. But they threw me The Elephant Man, you know, because it was the same producer. They said, well, we'll do that. And eventually I did do Amadeus. I did the first national tour, and then they transferred me to Broadway. That's an interesting experience. I've been doing it on the road for, I don't know, 7 months or something. Then you go in and do a put-in rehearsal, and it's like an episode of The Twilight Zone where you wake up and everybody's different. The king is different, your wife is different, Sayera is different, everybody's different, but you know, you gotta go right away. I mean, it's like, how do you do to the actress playing Costanza? Next minute I'm crawling on top of her and meowing like a cat. So it's a wonderful business to be in. And I really love feeling the energy of the students, because you know, I'm having sort of a vicarious thrill to a flashback to when I was just starting out, because you never know when the opportunity is going to arise. Not only do you have to be able to seize that opportunity, but you have to recognize that opportunity and to look back and think of how lucky I was to be in the right place at the right time. When I graduated, I went to 9 schools in 12 years and graduated from Yokohama High School in Japan. Then I came to Los Angeles. I was planning to go to New York and do the theater route, but my brother was getting married, and the best man was Michael Franks, who had written this original musical. Now, he had grown up with me, so he knew I was, you know, he's that 11-year-old kid that does the Richard Nixon impression. You know, he's a little weird, but... so he knew that I would be right to be in this musical. Now, I had to get a job, so I got a job in an ice cream store, and I told them I can work any hours, and then I gave them the performance schedule. And I said, can I switch to days for that? They worked it all out. But the only reason I'm telling this story is one of the girls in the show, her father worked for Neil Diamond in The Office. So, I mean, that's a showbiz connection. And he, to somewhere during the run, because I was fully committed, he said, if you're really serious about this, I know people in show business that I could probably get you an agent. So I went around to various offices, and I had 2 things presented. One was for drama, I did a scene from The Subject Was Roses, and Lauren, his daughter, read the other part. And then I did a monologue from You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, sitting on the floor as Snoopy for the Flying Ace to show comedy and drama. So I did that maybe 5 offices, and then I got an agent before Christmas. So I get there in the summer, do the play, work in the ice cream store. By Christmas, I have an agent. Now, the Vietnam War was going on, so luckily for me, I was born in California. I had no money. I couldn't go to USC or UCLA. UCLA is pricey. I know, my daughter just went there for 4 years. But I was willing. I said to, wherever you can get in, I will fund you. That's one of my vows. That's money well spent. LACC, $8 in a pen and you're in. And one thing that I thought was really important was there was discipline in the theater arts department. In other words, you couldn't get cast in your first semester. You had to take the full, 12 and a half units. I didn't do all theater. About 8 units was theater and then English, science, outside courses. But one thing, there was a TA 24, Theater Arts 24, that's the actual production class. So that when you're in production, if you're on the crew or you're building sets or whatever, that class was from 1 after lunch to question mark. Normally it was 1 to 4, but if you're in production, you could stay till midnight or whatever. That was the only course I couldn't take the first semester because I had my after school job. Very glamorous job. I worked at Jack in the Box. You know that story about Jack in the Box, by the way. I was fired. And you know why? Because I was just the shake man. They don't let you do everything. It's all controlled. So I'm doing just shakes. And this was the day where you actually had to add syrup and whip them up. Now they just come out ready-made. But my point is, somebody got sick and he said, Hamill, you're going on the window. I'm like, oh boy, I was so excited. Because communication with the public, that's what we are, we're communicators. And I thought, well listen, if I'm the voice of Jack, I'm not gonna say, welcome to Jack in the Box, order. No, I'm gonna say, welcome to Jack in the Box! What's your order today? It didn't go well with my mom. He said, if you can't take this seriously, we don't need you. So, but again, what I loved about the theater arts department is it's so important for you to know everybody's job. I mean, you have these kids coming out of high school and they got the lead in the school musical and they're starring their own head, but they don't know how to work in the booth, how to run props, how to make posters and be an usher, do all the jobs. And so I took that course. I did every course except for that summer. Then I did TA 24. And what was interesting is there were a lot of people that did want to become stage managers. That was their goal. So they would get all the important jobs. But in the summer, I did do props on the Fantastics. I can't remember whatever. We did 4 shows. My point is, I never would have gotten this job. I was master electrician of Man of La Mancha. And holy moly. I'm telling you, because nowadays they have automatic and crossfades. Here you're using rulers to try and get the crossfades. And I'm telling you, I sweated bullets. It was like almost a performance. When you were done, you had that same sense of exhilaration and accomplishment that you had when you were on stage. But I learned so much, and I would imagine a school as good as yours would have that for you to know that it's not just about the performers. It's a composite art, and you need everybody to be successful.
Yeah!
This collaboration with Mike Flanagan, which predates Life of Chuck. You guys first did Fall of the House of Ushers, this limited series for Netflix.
Woo!
But he so he's now seen you, worked up close with you twice, and I want to read something that he said and then ask you for your reaction. Quote, he's Luke Skywalker. That tattooed itself on his life and his identity to the point that I think a lot of people don't know what Mark is capable of. I've worked with him twice now, and both times he has surprised and delighted me with his performances. He vanishes into a character completely. His level of preparation is second to none, close quote. And I know that in this case with The Life of Chuck was maybe most evident with that 4-page beautiful monologue that you deliver so well about math, but really about a lot more than that. And so I wonder if you can just talk about, I guess the first part of what he said, which is that when you alluded to it earlier, that when you do something really well, as you did early on in your career, people fixate on that, but how you've, over time, whether it was through voice acting or going to Broadway or now these projects like the ones you've done with Mike, found ways to kind of, work against that tide that's tough for people and show all these other great sides of yourself, which I really think 100 years from now when they talk about, when we're all gone and they talk about your work, of course there's going to be, the Star Wars stuff very prominently, but that monologue is pretty unbelievable.
Well, I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for Mike Flanagan, and I have to tell you, I reached a point, 5 or 6 years ago, where as much as an actor enjoys a good entrance, you also appreciate a dignified exit. And I sort of thought, well, I've reached a plateau. I'm not going to be overly dramatic and say, oh, I'm retiring. I'll probably continue doing voiceover for as long as they want me. But I thought, I've had enough on camera. Who wants to continue on and on and on? But I was a fan of Mike's from The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, and Midnight Mass, which we'd watched as a family. My wife and my 3 kids, it was a family thing. I thought, this guy is so good. And who are all these actors that I've never heard of? I mean, he has these massive casts. So when he asked me to be in Follow the House of Usher, I read it and I thought, wow. Now, this part, if it were in voiceover, would be routine. Because one of the thing about voiceover is they cast with their ears, not their eyes. So you're going to get parts that you would never get in a million years on camera. If you can sound like you're a 6'2" muscle-bound bodyguard, fine. And what's so liberating is no one can see you. So you don't have that same kind of sensibility of, is it too big, is it too small? It's very liberating in that sense. And after doing, half dozen shows on and off Broadway and the national tour, I thought, where has this been all my life? So I started doing voiceover. The voiceover community is so welcoming because they're secure in their talent. It's not quite as cutthroat as maybe on camera. I'm generalizing, but it was interesting because with the Joker, here's what will happen to you. I should tell you. A lot of times if you really want something, my advice to you is, even if you have to act, be aloof. Act like you don't want it. It'll make you more desirable. Sometimes when you want something too much, it can throw your timing off. They can sense a neediness that makes them uncomfortable. But the context of me going in for Joker was the fact that about a month before I went in, they announced that Michael Keaton would be playing Batman. And the comic book community freaked out. Oh, he's Mr. Mom. He's a comedic actor. He can't play Batman. And it was a big deal, at least, in the world of nerddom, and of which I'm a proud member. So anyway, my context was that if they think the fans freaked out about Mr. Mom playing Batman. How are they going to feel about Luke Skywalker being the Joker? So there's no way I can get it. And because there was no way I could get it, I went in there completely relaxed, thinking, I'm going to make them so sorry they can't hire me. And there was just one picture of him in black and white. The only direction was, don't think Nicholson, which I would never dare do. I mean, nobody can top Jack. And so I just had a blast doing it. They had replaced another actor, so there were 4 episodes finished that I had to dub. I didn't get to work with the main cast until the 5th episode, but I just, to play a character whose main job is just to create chaos, and joyfully. I mean, that's the thing. My Joker, I love Heath Ledger's sort of heroin addict take on it. I mean, there's been so many great Jokers. Mine's kind of old school comic book where he just gleefully makes people miserable. And I just have to say that that really turned people's minds around about me, because people were saying, that Mark Hamill? I mean, I had people in the grocery store say, come on, they treat your voice, right? Isn't it? They speed it up. Do the voice. We're in a Safeways. I can't whisper in your ear, you gotta let it rip! So, I'm in the aisle of Toys R Us with a 10-year-old girl. A Joker fan, eh? And everyone's looking, what's that middle-aged man doing to that little kid? I don't like the looks of that. But no, what I'm saying is it really turned people around in terms of broadening the scope of what I was considered for. But like I said, once I did that, I sort of got typed as a megalomaniacal villain. Well, if he does that, then you should be hobgoblin Liz, and you should be all that. But listen, the voiceover community, I got to a point where I thought, I don't care if I ever do on camera again. I love it. It's like the ultimate lazy actor's dream. You show up, you don't have to memorize your lines, you read them. You get to sit the whole time. I worked with Lee Marvin on Big Red 1, and I said, Lee, do you have any advice for me? As the picture was winding up, he goes, never stand when you can sit. Oh, that's kind of disappointing. I was hoping for like career advice. I didn't realize till 30 years later how right he was.
Well, just I guess to close this out, because I'm told we're up against the clock, but I want to just ask you to talk about I don't know, I guess just where you see this character from like in the grand scheme of your career. It's a total physical transformation. I know you were joking that you ended up looking like Geppetto.
That was an accident, because what happens if you do a process, you really have to rely on the creativity of makeup, wardrobe, and hair. In other words, when I'm flying up to Vancouver to do Fall of the House of Usher, like if Mike thinks I can do it, I can do it. But that's an example of a character where I have no clue what I'm going to do. He's a sociopathic, evil, enabler of evil, and depraved and just awful. Naturally, he thought of me, but I didn't know how he would look, or sound, or anything. But what happens is you go through the process. I'd say, well, this guy is so devoted to his, he's the lawyer for this terrible family. If you haven't seen it, it's wonderful, because everybody in it are like the worst human beings you've ever seen. Every child is worse than the next. Everybody's terrible, including their lawyer. But I said, look, when he gets out of the shower, he probably just wants to buff his hair once. He's totally devoted. I sort of modeled him on Stephen Miller, as so is the neighbor of evil. his look and his lack of any kind of human empathy. So we're trying on various things in the vest and so forth. My hair, so just laid down. I didn't want it to stick up. We found the glasses, and then when I put on the hat, I was like, oh, great. Now, the last piece of the puzzle, we're on set during the very first scene with Roderick and his sister, and I'm mostly exposition, because since I'm investigating these supernatural incidents, I'm coming, I explore what happens, and I'm coming back, and I'm reporting to them, but basically filling the audience in on, what the hell's going on here. And so when I started lying down, they give me reams of photographs and evidence. I just decided, how can I convey that this guy is just dead inside? So without really making a decision, during rehearsal, I started saying Rockefellers, Rothschilds, I tried to talk to them, but they wouldn't answer my calls. And about 2 hours into shooting, Mike walked by me. He didn't even stop. He walked right by me and said, love the voice. I'm home. Because once you get that validation from your director, from then on, I had such a great time doing it. And like I said, what a wonderful cast. I mean, the show's not about me. I would have weeks off, maybe work 2 days, then I'd have 7 days off or whatever. My wife would fly back to Los Angeles. I like staying where I am. I just stayed in Vancouver the whole time because I'm not a big fan of airports and all that. But with Life of Chuck, I thought, I don't want to be in the makeup chair for hours. I mean, that's tough. I mean, when I met Colin Farrell, I just said, oh my God, just in the chair for Penguin. It's like, oh my God, did I love that show. Everybody in it. And my friend Clancy Brown, I've been doing voiceover with him for decades. He's in SpongeBob, but he just gives this towering performance as this rival mob boss. So happy for him because he's got such great range, and yet, you don't always get to show it. But with this, I said, they're showing me sweat. I said, okay, well, let's just white out my hair. I'll grow my mustache out as far as you can and white that out. They found that, that's a good sweater, those are good pants, whatever. It wasn't until I put the wire-rimmed glasses and looked in the mirror and went, oh my God, I'm Geppetto. Well, it's too late. I've always wanted to shave my head on top and do those Don Rickles strands across. The only one who stands in my way, and I have to give her credit. We've been married since 1978. I didn't get that together, guys. I just sound really lucky, but she stays out of my creative world. All I do is bring home the checks. She does everything else. Bills and permits and all the running the household, that's all her. But she has this thing. She said, you're not going to shave your head. I thought, well, that's the least I can do for her. But what I loved about the character was that he's sort of like an average, dull person. Maybe he drinks a little too much, but he's devoted to his wife, the wonderful Mia Sarah. Oh my gosh, I love her. And to his grandchildren, Cody Flanagan and Benjamin Paycheck. But what makes him come alive is when Benjamin says, math is boring. Oh! Am I wounded? It's like he spit on the pulp. It's 5 pages of defending an accountant's life like he's the most important person in the world. And I thought, that tells you everything you need to know about him. Not is he only proud to be an accountant, but he talks about how terrible the world would be without accountants. I loved it.
Well, I want to say on behalf of everybody here, thank you so much for coming.